Hello everybody. So after doing last week's video, I wanted to bring you a little more in-depth review of the new Moser Streamliner Center Seconds, also known as the Green Dragon. So for today, we're going to go through 4 different areas of the watch, including the case, the dial, the movement, and of course the gorgeous Streamliner bracelet. So, as everyone probably already knows, this is a very wearable 40 millimeter watch. What's unique about this piece is that it's only 9.9 millimeters thick in terms of the case height. Now, it's 9.9 millimeters thick in terms of the case height. However, when measured with the crystal, it is 11.8 millimeters. Okay, so now, if you look at this, okay, and once you see it on my wrist, I think you're going to agree that additional thickness really doesn't show up on the wrist. Okay, so let me place it right here first. What I've seen in the past is where some people include the measurement of these links right here in terms of the total lug-to-lug distance on a watch. Now, well, let me just do this. I'm going to put the watch on, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here, because I just don't agree that with this watch you would want to include that distance, right? Let me see if I can get a little bit better angle on this here. When you look at my wrist, or you look at the watch on my wrist, you can clearly see that it just simply wraps around the wrist, right? It does not have any sort of a protrusion that would increase the way that case wears on my wrist. One of the next things that you should recognize about the new Streamliner is the alternating between brushing and polishing. Now, if you look at the case itself, you're going to see what you might consider radiant brushing, right? Not just vertical brushing, but it radiates seemingly from the center of the case outward. But then when you get, of course, to these, what I'm going to refer to is famous, the famous bracelet, then it becomes a vertical brushing. Now, as you turn it to the side, we're going to see where there is that alternating between brushing and polishing. So you can clearly make out how beautifully that polishing alternates with the brushing from the case. And then you do have this area right in this case center, and I think that I could have polished this up a little bit better, but right in the case center there that there's some relief, right? See how it overhangs slightly there? And then the case back again returns to that polish, and we're going to get into the movement in just a little while here, so I'll save that. If you also notice how this extends the polishing from case to the bracelet, they do a wonderful job of that integration right there, including how the brushing in the center of the case also flows directly into the bracelet. Okay, now let me make sure I stay on track with my notes here for everybody. Now, the dial is known as Matrix Green, which is a famous Fume dial, or I should say it this way. The Fume dial is famous from Moser. However, this is a Matrix Green dial, which has some really interesting characteristics. Depending upon how we look at this, you can go from a very olive green in the dial, really to almost a golden green and everything in between. There are even times where I'll look down. I was at dinner last night and noticed that it almost looked black, right? And exceptionally in that way formal. So this is a watch that can also extend between day and nighttime wear, I would say from the office and casual types of events, all the way through wearing it with a coat and tie. In fact, I was at a birthday party the other night and wore it with a coat and tie and was just absolutely beautiful. Now, some other unique elements about this dial, beyond the simple three-hand design, are going to be that the hands feature what's known as Globalite, and that is a ceramic-based insert. So if we look real close at the hands here, you're going to notice that that insert sits right on top of the actual hands, and then you see that ceramic Globalite insert there, and that features a superluminova, so it does it is easy to see in the evening. The other thing is that the minute hand is curved, so you can probably, you can make that out right there. So just unique elements. In fact, I think that the center hand, the center hand is also curved downward. All right, let's talk a little bit about the movement. Now, in addition to it being a see-through case back, I'm going to give this a little polish for us here. Okay. In addition to this being a see-through case back, this watch, the Streamliner, contains the HMC 200 automatic movement. Of course, that is an in-house movement from Moser. And it features what Moser calls the Moser double stripes. So if we get in here and look at the movement a little closer, you can begin to see how that double stripe is featured on this movement. In addition, the movement contains, uniquely for the Streamliner, a solid gold, 18 karat gold, solid rotor, okay, which we can clearly make out right here. But this movement is also used in the Pioneer. It does not have the gold rotor, but it is featured also in the Pioneer model. The movement has a 3-day power reserve. Let me just place it down here for a second. Haven't gotten talented at this like some people are. But the movement features a 3-day power reserve, and the movement itself is only 5.5 millimeters thick. It does oscillate at 21,600 semi-oscillations per hour, and the movement contains 27 joules. Okay, so just some stats about the HMC 200. Now let's talk about the bracelet. It's clearly an integrated design. Okay, you'll see where I might be able to show up there. Also got a little scratch on it just this past week. It killed me, but I understand that that's the nature of wearing your watches. Now, one thing that I didn't know until I purchased the watch is that instead of containing screws, it contains pins, okay? And at first you might question that because, you know, the pins have become known to maybe not be as high-end as a screw. However, I would say that for an elegant bracelet like this, the pins work much better. They just are so well integrated into the design. And by the way, so secure that I wouldn't have it any other way. I really had to think about whether I would prefer screws to pins in this, and no, it is very well integrated where they just vanish on your wrist, and I think that screws would be a less elegant way of putting this bracelet together. There's clearly a very fluid articulation to this bracelet as well, right? So when it is on wrist, and again, I'll put it on in just a second here, and notice that vertical graining, by the way. I don't know if you would call it, do you call that graining or brushing, or is it the same thing? I kind of go back and forth as if they are synonyms to one another. But when we look at the way that this bracelet is put together, you clearly have that vertical brushing, and then in between each link is just a very beautifully polished exterior, right, of the links. Right, the links are beautifully polished on their exteriors to reveal that polish between the links is absolutely beautiful. So anyway, I think, let me just put it on the wrist one more time and show you how this looks on wrist. I think that's really all I wanted to get across in today's video. Of course, the H. Moser logo is featured right on the back of the bracelet. It is amazing, and I think you might agree, how the brushing almost appears, if it weren't for the grain of the brush, it almost appears polished, right? But then the polishing really does show through between those links, and then it kind of reveals that it is brushed. It's a really unique bracelet that I just haven't seen before, and maybe it's because I haven't worn a lot of other high-end integrated bracelets like this, but this to me is just a perfect everyday, go anywhere design that is gotta be, it will be an icon of the H. Moser line. So I hope that today's video was helpful in going into a little more detail on the H. Moser Streamliner Center Seconds, aka the Green Dragon. And if you have any questions, or if you would like to see another video featuring more information, please leave that in the comments below, and I will be happy to do it. Thanks a lot, and take care.